89.9 KMOJ, the People Station. That was Robin Thicke with Magic. And it is officially 1 o'clock.
It is 1 o'clock.
It is.
On the dot.
On the dot. We never usually be like right
know,
on the
right?
dot, right? Oh,
I
my
know.
God. Well, welcome to Minneapolis 360. Of course, in the building is the very beautiful and amazing Miss Aliyah Gant. How you doing today, sis?
I'm doing well. You know what? Normally when I've come in, it's been nice and sunny, and you can tell we're transitioning into fall. It's not winter. It's not winter, but you can feel like summer is leaving. Yeah, like you feel it in the air.
And you see it too.
I know you do see it today.
A little gloomy.
It is. But you look lovely as always.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You too, sweetheart. You got a baby in college now.
Well, she's about to.
Okay.
She is about to move into the dorms. So it's been a journey.
Bittersweet.
Yeah, bittersweet. But I'm excited for her. The future's ahead of her. Life's ahead of her. So I'm excited to see. You know, it's that time where you spend so much time investing in them, and now this is their opportunity to be their own people. Like, trust what you've put in them, and then allow them to
just fly.
Absolutely, and find their way.
Yes, she will. She will be amazing. You did a great job,
Thank
Mom.
you.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Well, we have some very special guests in the building. It's so great to see people in the building.
I know,
with
it's
us.
nice, right?
It is.
Yes. Well, we have somebody who has been here before, and pretty recently she was here. So we're excited to have Miss April Graves back from the health department.
Yes.
Hey, ladies.
A married woman.
I know, right? She's married now.
She is. She was a fiance the last time she was here.
That's right.
Now she's a married woman. And we also have another special guest from the health department, Miss Evalyn, but I don't remember how to say your last name. Can you say your last name?
Yes, it's Carbrey.
Carbrey. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and we have a really special topic today. We're talking about back to school. And I know in the past we've had shows where back to school was vaccines. The health department would come in. Or you think a lot about back to school being like, do I have my backpack and the school supplies? Have the kids gotten school clothes, new shoes? But there's also something really important, I think, to talk about when it comes to back to school for the youth, and that is their mental health.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and how some of them are coping with their mental health. So that's why we have our special guest, Miss Evalyn, in the building to talk about that a bit, and Miss April to talk about youth mental health, going back to school, how parents can prepare for that and look for signs that their kids might be struggling with their mental health.
Absolutely. And how we as a community can assist as well,
Absolutely.
right? We all can pitch in. It
The
takes
village.
a village. Okay, I was thinking it takes
The
a
village.
village.
Absolutely. So, April, I gave you I said your name and where you work, but do you want to just introduce yourself again a little bit?
Sure. So I work in community well-being in public health at the Minneapolis Health Department. And I really try to look at communities and what helps people be healthy, strong, happy, not just physically, emotionally, mentally, but also socially.
Absolutely.
And I'm also interested in the connection between our individual well-being and the environments that we live in. So I spend a lot of time thinking about things like mental health, equity, trauma, community connection, prevention, and how we can make sure that the resources and systems work better for the people they're supposed to serve.
I love that. Yeah, and a lot of that is all connected with how it impacts us, your environment, your what's going on in the news, our systematic issues, all of that affects our mental health, our well-being. So I love that. And Miss Evalyn, do you want to introduce yourself a bit and tell us what you do for the city?
Sure, thanks. So, like April, I work with the Minneapolis Health Department. My work is more focused specifically on cannabis and substance use prevention, and also commercial tobacco prevention. So really, a lot of this is focused on young people and how to keep young people from using these products until they're of age, and then for people who do choose to use, how to use them safely. And similar to April, really thinking about like our systems and our environment and how we can have a community that really supports the health of everyone. Excited to be here.
I love that so much because community health, public health, community health, it means so many different things. And so to be able to have you both on here today and give us diversity of opinions and ideas of what that looks like is so important. And so, April, as kids are going back to school, what should families be preparing for them from a mental health perspective?
Well, like you said before, a lot of time we spend thinking about preparing children physically for school, getting the backpack, the school supplies, the clothes, the schedule, the transportation, all of that figured out. But I think we also need to think about how we prepare them emotionally.
Absolutely.
Back to school can bring a lot of excitement, but it can also bring a lot of anxiety, uncertainty, social pressures, academic pressures, and questions about where and how you fit in. So I encourage parents to start with having a conversation before the first day. Ask your child what they're excited about, what they're nervous about, and if they're worried about anything when going back. But I think also one of the bigger questions too is, are our schools and communities ready for our children?
Absolutely.
That's a great question.
Are they places where young people feel seen, safe, valued, and like they belong? Because belonging is not just about a nice idea, it's a protective factor for mental
Absolutely.
health. And when young people feel connected, they're more likely to ask for help, engage in school, build healthy relationships, and navigate challenges in healthier ways. So preparing for school isn't just about preparing the child. It's about preparing the environment the child is coming into.
I love that so much because one thing, as I've been listening to youth in the city and adults who are working with youth, is one of the major things that youth in Minneapolis are struggling with is that they feel like they have nowhere to be together. And so there's a lot of sense of community that's being lost because they don't have a hangout spot together, or there are not like as many rec centers as there used to be to do activities. So yeah, exactly what you're saying is just preparing an environment to be safe, to where you can feel seen, where it's a healthy place is really important for youth. And how do things like bullying, discrimination, isolation, and this idea of belonging impact students' mental health and violence? Because I mean, both of my daughters, my oldest just graduated last year from Minneapolis Public School. She was, and I have another daughter who's in Minneapolis Public School, high school, and violence is a huge part of like their reality. Even last year at my oldest daughter's school, someone was shot and killed, a senior who was supposed to be graduating with her, and so it impacts how kids are feeling. So how do all of this impact their mental health?
Well, I think it can have a tremendous impact on young people because they're constantly asking themselves, am I safe? Do I belong
Absolutely.
here? Do people see me? Do I matter? And when a young person is being bullied, discriminated against, excluded, or exposed to violence, their nervous system is being tapped. It's spending a lot of time in this state of threat. And it's difficult to focus on learning when you're constantly trying to figure out whether you're safe or whether you're accepted. And discrimination, as an additional layer, it can affect something as fundamental as a young person's identity and their sense of worth. So for Black youth, for example, that can include experiencing racism or being treated differently because of the color of their skin.
Absolutely.
For other young people, it might be connected to their culture, their gender identity, their sexuality, disability, religion, immigration experience, or social economic circumstances. So isolation can also be very harmful. You could be surrounded by people every day and still feel completely alone. And that's why belonging matters so much.
Absolutely.
It tells a young person you don't have to earn your right to be here. You're already part of this community. And speaking to your point about violence, whether a young person experiences it directly, witnesses it, or lives with fear that it could happen, all of those things can have a lasting effect on their mental and physical health. So when we're talking about youth mental health, we can't only ask what's going on inside of this child. We have to also ask what's happening around this child.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that so much because when you create those safe spaces, like your nervous system gets to relax. So, I mean, and I think about some of the kids in our schools that do have to think about the pressure of academics and social pressures, or even like Western European beauty standards that are brought upon our girls and some of our boys too, like all of those things, all of those pressure. It's like a pressure cooker of how it can impact you. So I love that, of like creating a safe place, whether it's from violence or from bullying, but also just their well-being and how they're feeling and interacting with each other. And how do academic and social pressures play a role in mental health?
Well, you've brought up a couple great points. There's just a lot of different expectations that young people are navigating at the same time, whether that's academic pressure, social pressures, like who are my friends? Where do I fit in? What do people think about me? Am I popular? Am I doing what everyone else is doing? Am I keeping up? And then social
Absolutely.
media adds this additional layer that amplifies all of that because young people can feel like they're being evaluated constantly or they're comparing themselves to everyone else's highlight reel. So for some youth, there's those additional pressures also around identity, racism, gender, sexuality, family expectations, economic circumstances, or being the first person in your family expected to navigate some of these really difficult, not particularly friendly systems. And that's just
Absolutely.
really a lot for a young person to carry.
It
Absolutely.
is.
It's a lot. And, you know, for some parents or grandparents or just loving adults that are in young people's life that could be listening, what are some signs that you would say that they could pay attention to that might be those warning signs that, hey, maybe this young person in my life is really struggling with their mental health?
Well, I think sometimes we expect our children to tell us I'm anxious or I'm depressed, but children don't always have the words to express what they're experiencing.
Absolutely.
So one of the main things I usually tell parents is to look for a change in behavior.
Mhm.
I'm a mother as well. I have 4 kids. My oldest is 30,
No,
and my youngest is going to be 17 next month.
You got to
Wow.
arrange.
Right. And so I still have 3 of my children still living at home, even those that are already not teens anymore, still have to navigate a lot of these emotions. So if I notice that they're sleeping a lot more or having headaches or stomach aches a lot, or they're just more irritable or they're withdrawing from friends, becoming kind of emotionally distant or overly emotional, or even doing the opposite, like becoming super focused, overachieving, becoming sort of a perfectionist. Those are all changes in behavior. So the main thing is to know your child, pay attention,
Absolutely.
and then if you see that something's different, ask, what's going on? What happened? Or you don't seem like yourself lately. Do you want to talk about how you're feeling? It's our jobs as adults to be curious about the behavior rather than immediately judging what it is.
Absolutely. I love that so
Yeah, I
much.
think a lot of times too, sometimes people are so quick to say, oh, they're just bad or they're acting out and they're just,
Absolutely.
and that's not the case. Like we really
They're
got to,
hurting.
yeah, and we need to dig into the reason why they are acting the way that they're acting, why their behavior is, may be a little different or why it's always been that way. We should always question it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And us as adults too, I think we can create that safe space for children, like how we approach them, our mood, how
Yeah.
we begin the conversation instead of going, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with you. Know what I mean? Like, how can we create that gentle landing spot for them to be able to
Right.
be vulnerable and open up and begin to share what's going on with them?
No, that's great.
And you've talked about self-awareness before. Why is this such an important skill for young people to
Well,
learn?
it's an important skill for
Oh,
all
oh,
people.
yeah,
Come on,
absolutely.
But if you start
Absolutely.
young, it becomes a lot easier to maintain that skill into adulthood.
And
So-
adults around you will be a lot happier that you have that skill.
Exactly. Well, I do start a lot of conversations around mental health by talking about self-awareness. And I really mean that in 2 ways. First, really knowing yourself, your strengths, your values, your emotions, and some of your weaknesses as well, what you enjoy, what matters to you, but also understanding where your behaviors and your reactions come from. So recognizing what happens in your body when you're getting angry or when you're
Yes,
upset,
absolutely.
recognizing what triggers you, what happens when you're feeling overwhelmed. What are you doing when you're trying to avoid something, and what helps you calm down? Because if you can recognize what's happening inside of you, you have a better chance of regulating yourself instead of simply reacting. And it's a skill that helps you make better decisions, build healthier relationships, and ultimately just create a healthier life. And I think it's important for adults to model that. We can't just tell
Absolutely.
young people to regulate their emotions. We have to show them what that looks like.
Absolutely.
And I've had to
Absolutely.
learn that myself.
Absolutely.
I've experienced lots of anxiety. I've had periods in my life where I realized I was really operating in survival mode. And then mindfulness, yoga, meditation, and other practices that I've developed have helped me recognize when I need to pause, step back, and refill my cup. And that's something I want young people to understand early. You don't have to wait until you're completely depleted to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Burnout is real. Stress is real. Life is hard.
Life is hard. And especially for youth, too. It is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, the times we're living through are especially difficult. So learning to recognize what's happening inside of you is a form of prevention, a way of taking care of yourself, and also a way to help yourself grow.
Absolutely.
And I think that we have to be mindful, too, of how people like to handle their stress and their mental health, because there's so many different ways and so many different things that you can do. And I know sometimes as parents, I actually am a mental health advocate. And so sometimes I go to the schools and talk to the teenagers. And
you do a little of everything,
I know,
girl.
right?
I love it. I love it.
Know, right? But I noticed, so talking to the youth, like some of them, they like, hey, when I'm in a funk or when I just want to play my video game. And I remember even as my child was growing up, I'd be like, get off the game, like go outside, play, but sometimes we just have to be, we have to ask the questions, as you said, right? And really
That's so crazy you brought that up, because my son, who still lives at home and is 25, is a huge gamer.
Okay.
He stays out of trouble for the most part. He works part-time.
Okay.
But he's still kind of figuring out his life and how to get his feet under him. And he spends a lot of time on that video game, and it drives me nuts, and I feel like in a sense it becomes a barrier to kind of making progress as well in what he wants to do. And there's been times where I've just been tried to regulate the hours and just attack it from the behavioral point. More recently, I asked him, I said, why do you think you're spending so much time on your game? And he's like, what's the point? It just feels like all that there is to do in life is just work and sleep. And this is my escape. This is how I connect with my friends. And sometimes when I'm feeling depressed, I go on here and I feel better. So having that conversation. And then also, if I understand that, then I can also try to help him identify some other habits that will probably help him as well.
Absolutely. I love that. Openness, communication, trust is so important. And April, what is the data telling us right now about the mental health of youth, Black youth in the city right now?
Well, the data tells us that youth mental health in general is a significant concern across the board, and Black young people are navigating the broader mental health crisis alongside the additional pressures that can come with racism, discrimination, violence, economic stress, and other inequities. And I don't want us to talk about Black young people only in terms of what's wrong or what they're struggling with. These young people are incredibly creative.
Yes.
They're leaders. They're advocating for themselves. They're paying attention to what's happening in their communities. So I think we have to hold both things at the same time, the challenges that they're experiencing and the strengths that they bring. So the question never is what's wrong with Black youth. It's always what conditions are we creating for Black youth and Black young people to thrive.
I love
That's
that.
good.
Yeah.
Do they have trusted adults? Do they have spaces where they feel safe and respected? Do they have opportunities to lead? Do they see themselves and their cultures reflected and valued in the larger society? And can they access mental health support that feels culturally responsive and safe? Those are the conditions that really matter. And that's really where I think public health has an important role. We can't put all of the responsibility on young people to be resilient while leaving the environments around them unchanged. We need to create conditions where resilience doesn't have to mean simply surviving.
Right.
I love that so much.
Good.
So good.
That's real good. I think growing up as a Black woman, you notice the young boys, even myself kind of growing up. I remember, my dad had left the household. It was just my mom, and we were very poor, and I wanted things. And so I wanted to work at a young age. But I think for some of our younger, I think it starts as early as 7 or 8 years old for some of these young Black boys who want to make money because they want to get things. They may want gym shoes or something that they see somebody else with. And when they ask for work or help, people like, what do you need a job for, little boy? But the thing is, that can make or break you, right? Because now that opens the door for them to go and find a street hustler, or anybody who, may turn them a different direction. So I think that we have like these businesses on Broadway. We have neighbors, let the kids rake the lawn or mow the grass or shovel the snow. Give them a job, an opportunity to make some money so that they can see that they can, be their own entrepreneur, that they can, and to alleviate some of the extra pressure that may be, coming from home. Absolutely.
And that's real in our communities where we have a lot of pressure to help contribute to the family,
Right.
and help meet those needs. So
Mm-hmm.
that is very, very real. And Miss Evalyn, I wanted to ask you a couple questions as well. And as we talk about, April's been talking about youth mental health, and you specialize in cannabis and tobacco use and prevention. How does mental health connect to cannabis use and other substances among young people?
Oh, this is good.
Yeah, so unfortunately, a lot of times, mental health and substance use, they go hand in hand, but we
Mm.
really don't want to like oversimplify it. So just because someone's dealing with mental health issues doesn't mean they're going to use cannabis or other substances, and vice versa. But a lot of the same things that April's talked about around mental health also go along with cannabis and substance use. And so a lot of times, young people might turn to these things as a way to cope without realizing that it can actually make the situation worse. So
Mm.
as we're thinking about back to school and stressors, it's just one more thing for families and caregivers to be aware of. And so, as April is saying, like, rather than just saying like, saying like, oh, you shouldn't do that, but think about like, why is this person doing this, or what else is going on
Mm.
that has caused them to turn to use these things as a way to cope or deal with the stressors in their life.
Absolutely. And that is real right now because
Mm-hmm.
there is so much easy accessibility
Mm-hmm.
to cannabis and to other tobacco based products that are way easier to get. I mean, it was easy to get weed back then too, but I mean, I feel like now it's so easy
Yeah.
to find it and to have it, and for that to automatically be maybe a solution. And maybe kids don't even have the language to know that they're struggling with mental health, and it just feels like it's alleviating something for them in that moment.
So, and Evelyn, I have a question for you because I think in their minds sometimes I've heard you say this. Oh, and I smoke, like I'm so much smarter, like I can focus, or you know what I mean? All these different excuses on why they believe that they are handling business better. But when in reality, a lot of times they're moving a lot slower than they think they are. And, if they had to react in 2.2 seconds, I just don't think that they would be able to. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure the effects are different on everybody, but I hear that sometimes. What do you think, or what's some, how can we combat that?
Yeah, there's a lot of misperceptions around cannabis and nicotine, and I think one thing that's really hard for young people is like, well, if it's okay for adults to use this, like, why can't
Mm,
I use it? But I think one thing that you can really teach young people is that it's not safe for them because their brain is still developing until they're
mm,
25. And it can also really increase your risk of having mental health issues
mm,
later. So giving young people the facts and saying, this is why this isn't safe for
for
you
you.
right now.
Hmm.
And then, like you said, sometimes you might feel like you're going to feel different when you use these products, and you might get like a short time effect, but because your brain is still developing, that THC in the cannabis or weed or that nicotine in that commercial tobacco product is interfering with your brain. And so it causes you to become slower, it dulls your
Hmm.
reactions, and it can also lead to wanting more over time, which can lead to
Hmm.
addiction.
Hmm.
And so that's why we really want to emphasize why these products aren't safe, especially for our young people.
No, that's good. Yeah, because once you become addicted to one thing, then it's easier to pick up another habit. And so,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important. Whatever adults do is kind of like adult business. And I think it's really good that you mentioned that their brains are developing until our brains develop till we're 25. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not even like this legal, oh, guess what? I can vote at 18 and I can buy cigarettes. So I should just go on and start using cannabis a lot as well. Like your brain is still developing, and you want it to be as clear and sharp as you can. And Evalyn, what does the data tell us about youth substance use right now? Because I think this would be really important for parents to hear because, once my daughters transitioned into high school, that's when I found out about all the vaping and a
hmm.
lot of the use that was going on that I just
Hmm.
hadn't been in that bubble in so
Hmm.
long. And I think there probably are a lot of parents out here who might not realize it either.
Yeah, so we know that across the U.S., about studies show that about 10 to 15% of young people are using cannabis products, although some people think this might be an underestimate, especially now that it's legal for adult use here in Minnesota. It's become more normalized.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen a decrease actually over about the last 10 years in the number of youth that are using these products. But I think one thing to emphasize is that there's a lot of disparity in these numbers. So certain community groups like people of color, unfortunately, and LGBTQ plus youth are a lot more likely to use.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just something also for parents to be aware of, is that there's this real disparity in the numbers. So although it might look good overall, like, oh, people are using as much as we thought, like we need to be aware that the data only says so much.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And too, like, because that piggybacks off of what April had been talking about. There are specific traumas and triggers that youth of color and LGBTQ plus youth are going to face that might not necessarily hit certain demographics. So without any specific data saying this group, it's this much and that much, we don't want to get parents like too excited, like, oh, that's not my youth, because our communities could be using it more because of the extra traumas and stressors that we have and we face. And Evalyn, what can parents do to help reduce the risk of substance use in their youth?
Yeah, so it's actually a lot of the same things that April was talking about. So really talking with young people and being open, starting early and having those conversations ongoing. So it's not just like one time, like, oh, we had the talk, we are done.
Yeah,
I'm good
it's
to go.
over.
I did my job, right? No. Like you open the conversation and start with listening. Like April was saying, like people want to be heard. I want to be heard, and
Absolutely.
young people need space to open up. So just you can start that with the questions like, what have you heard about cannabis and substance use? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? And then that gives you the opportunity to share the facts. And then also one thing to think about when you're talking with young people is when you have these conversations. So, don't necessarily schedule a time, because that's probably not going to rub off on them very well, or try and do it late at night or early in the morning, but just try to find a normal pause in the day for conversation. So maybe you're in the car or like you're having dinner. That's a really good time to open that conversation where people feel
So good.
comfortable and safe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is so good. It's a
Mhm.
really great
Mhm.
conversation.
Absolutely.
And as we're starting to wrap things up, what is something that you would want every student to hear as they're going back to school? I want to hear from both of you. We'll start with you, Evalyn.
I think for me, one thing is a lot of times I think in school there's this misperception that everybody's doing it or I have to do it to fit in. But actually, 92% of Minnesota teens say they aren't using cannabis. And so I
Right.
think that, like, maybe you see the same people using all the time, but it is not everyone that's using. And so just really knowing that it's actually more the norm not to use than to use. And also practicing, you're probably going to be given the opportunity. So what would you say in that situation? And what words feel comfortable for you?
Oh, I love that. Like
Mhm.
already knowing what those safe words are for you that you feel empowered by to be able to say no, and however that looks.
Right.
Yeah, I love that so much. And then April, what about you? What do you want to send students off as they're gearing up to go back to school in Minneapolis?
Well, I think the biggest thing I want them to know is that mental health is something that we all have, and that caring for it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. We all
Absolutely.
have moments when we need to pause, reconnect, ask for help, or just simply be reminded that we don't have to carry everything by ourselves. And I really want us to think about mental health from a place of strength. Our young people already have so much wisdom, creativity, resilience, and capacity.
Absolutely.
Our families and our communities have these strengths too. Sometimes our work is not about fixing what's broken. It's about creating the conditions where those strengths can grow. So if someone listening today is struggling, I would just encourage them to take one small step. Talk to someone, take a walk, sit outside, pray, breathe, write something down, reach out to someone you trust. You don't have to figure out everything today. And sometimes healing begins simply by slowing down enough to hear yourself again.
That's good. I think we have a
Absolutely.
caller. You want to
Oh,
see?
yeah. We'd love to hear from a caller.
Oh, we just lost them. Caller, if
Oh.
you want to call back. And they were hanging on like a
Oh,
thread.
I'm so okay. Whoever you are, call back and we'll get you on. And Evalyn, if there are other people who are out listening now and they say, how can I get more resources about mental health or information surrounding cannabis and the connection with mental health, can you give our listeners somewhere to go to find information?
Yeah, so definitely the Minneapolis Health Department, we have a lot of resources on our webpage. We have a whole guide of places to reach out to. And then just if someone is struggling, just know that you can always call 988 and be connected with someone who will give you immediate support. And that is open to anyone. It doesn't matter your age.
That's good.
I want to add too that we have worked with the communication folks in our department to create a back to school toolkit specific to mental health and cannabis substance use.
Oh, that's
So
dope.
if you reach out to either me or Evalyn, we can get you signed up. You can register on that list and we can send you out some materials that will help you.
Okay, and how can they reach you?
Best way to reach me would be my email, april.graves@minneapolismn.gov.
That's awesome.
Same for you, Miss Evalyn? Yeah, absolutely. And, as we're closing, they're back? Oh, right.
Nope.
April, do you just want to lead us through a quick little exercise, a breathing exercise to close?
Sure. Let's take a moment to breathe. Take a breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Not the breath you take when you're rushing. Not the breath you take when you're holding everything together. Just breathe. Feel your feet beneath you. Feel the ground holding you. You don't have to solve anything in this moment. You are here. You are worthy of care. You are connected. There is wisdom in you. There is strength in you. There is stillness in you. And you can begin again. One breath, one moment, one step at a time.
That's beautiful.
Thank you,
What a great way to end the show.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate all that you're doing. This is great. Our youth need it. The community needs to understand and know how to, just how to be supportive.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate you.
Absolutely. How to be supportive and where to get support for themselves.
That
too.
part. And I just learned something new. 988. Usually I say 311.
311. Oh, by the way, 311's hiring.
Oh.
Anybody out there needs a job.
All right. Come on. Thank you, Evalyn. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You are
Thank you both for being here today.
Yes. All right, y'all. We're going to get back into the music.